Tea time. Did you hear the story about the two young boys whose parents sent them on a vacation back to their home country so that they can visit their relatives by themselves? Oh my gosh, these two little boys were so excited. And when they got there, they met up with their cousins. They ripping and running, having a blast, really getting treated like kings back in their parents' country. Well, eventually the family's there is asking about their parents, and they're saying, how's your mama doing? And they're like, mom's doing great. She's doing this, talking about her work and her activities. And then they're waiting for them to ask about their father, but the family doesn't. And they're like, what's going on? So they tell them, hey, and dad's doing great too. He's just doing this. He's doing great. He's prospering. And their family's looking at them like, and walks out the room. Well, eventually they meet in more family, and the family asking them, how's your mom doing? And they tell them, mom's doing great. And dad, and every time they mention their dad, the family clams up and walks away. So they go to their cousins and like, what's going on? And the cousin's like, listen, you got to stop mentioning your dad or you won't be able to come around and play with us anymore. And they were like, what? What happened? And the cousin's like, I don't even know, but nobody ever talks about your dad. It's like some kind of crazy secret. And they're like, well, we got to figure it out, at least while we're here. What happened? Why doesn't anybody in this family like my dad? Everybody back in the U.S. loves my dad. All my friends love my parents. I don't understand this. And the cousin's like, come on, let's look it up. So they go to the computer and start doing internet searches, putting their dad's name, looking at old periodicals and trying to see if anything came up in the newspaper. And eventually they get a bite. They see a headline that says, 16-year-old boy kidnaps college student. And they're like, what? And it's just a small little snippet, but it describes how a 16-year-old boy kidnapped a college student he met one day, and he was arrested and sent to jail for a few months for the crime. And they was like, what? And it had their dad's name. And they trying to imagine their dad, who's so loving, sweet, patient. He's just the type of person that protects you. Why would he ever kidnap somebody? They was like, this can't be the same person. But the cousins was like, well, it will make sense of why nobody wants to have anything to do with him. And it was like, oh my gosh. So they finished the vacation and they go home, and the two boys is like heavy on their heart. Like, damn, should we say something to dad? What if it's not really him? We don't want to hurt his feelings for him to think that we would actually think he would be a monster like that. And they're like, but you know what? It has his name. The whole family's treating us like that. It's probably true. We have to say something to him. We got to know the truth. So they tell their dad they want to sit him down, and the mom comes to sit down too. And they tell their dad what they found, and the dad is like, it's true. And they're like, Dad, what happened? And the dad describes how one day he was driving along and it was really pouring, raining hard. And he saw a beautiful girl walking in the rain. So he told her, let me give you a ride. And she said, okay. And instead of taking her to her house, he took her to his house. He locked the door and kept her inside. He just wanted to talk to her. He didn't want her to want to go away, but she kept asking to leave, but he wouldn't. The only way that she was able to get out of that house was because the maid came and knocked on the door. She screamed and ran out. Of course, she reported it to the police, and he was arrested. And they were looking at him like, Dad, how could you? And the mom was just sitting there shaking her head. And it was like, Mom, you know about it? And the mom was like, but he didn't hurt me.